Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Sodanandana Brajajana Jasodanandana Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samstapakacharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, titled The Appearance of Shukadeva Goswami, Text 5. atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām atho vihāyemam amum cha lokam vimarśitau heyatayā purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām Vaishnavis. Amum cha lokam purastāt kṛṣṇāṅghri-sevām adhimanyamāna upāviśat prāyam amartya-nadyām. Atho, thus, vihāya, giving up, imam, this, amum, and the next, cha, also, lokam, planets, vimarśitau, all of them being judged, heyatayā, because of inferiority, purastāt, hereinbefore, kṛṣṇa-aṅghri, the lotus feet of the Lord, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, sevām, transcendental loving service, adhimanyamānaḥ, one who thinks of the greatest of all achievements, upāviśat, sat down firmly, prāyam, for fasting, amartya-nadyām, on the bank of the transcendental river, the Ganges or the Yamunā. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Mahārāja Parīkṣit sat down firmly on the banks of the Ganges to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization, because transcendental loving service to Krishna is the greatest achievement, superseding all other methods. Purport. For a devotee like Mahārāja Parīkṣit, none of the material planets, even the topmost Brahmaloka, is as desirable as Goloka Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the primeval Lord and original personality of Godhead. This earth is one of the innumerable material planets within the universe, and there are innumerable universes also within the compass of the Mahat-tattva. The devotees are told by the Lord and His representatives, the spiritual masters or the acharyas, that not one of the planets within all the innumerable universes is suitable for the residential purposes of a devotee. The devotee always thinks to go back home, back to Godhead, just to become one of the associates of the Lord in the capacity of servitor, friend, parent, or conjugal lover of the Lord, either in one of the innumerable Vaikunta planets or in Goloka Vrindavan, the planet of Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa. All these planets are eternally situated in the spiritual sky, the Paravyoma, which is on the other side of the causal ocean within the Mahat-tattva. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was already aware of all this information due to his accumulated piety and birth in a high family of devotees, Vaishnavas, and thus he was not at all interested in the material planets. Modern scientists are very eager to reach the moon by material arrangements, but they cannot conceive of the highest planet of this universe. But a devotee like Mahārāja Parīkṣit does not care a fig for the moon, or for that matter, any of the material planets. So when he was assured of his death on a fixed date, he became more determined in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna by complete fasting on the bank of the transcendental river Yamunā, which flows down by the capital of Hastinapur in the Delhi state. Both the Ganges and the Yamunā are amartya, transcendental rivers, and the Yamunā is still more sanctified for the following reasons. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 1, Chapter 19 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, titled The Appearance of Shukadeva Goswami, Text 5. Om Ajnanathimīrandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Śrī Gurave Namaha Śrī Caitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Śrī Guro Śrī Utapadakamanaṁ Śrī Gurun Vaishnavamscha Śrī Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Śrī Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakānvitāmscha Namāum Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapata Kaswamaniti Namine Namacharya Padayane Taikrapa Pradayane Gaurakata Dhamadaya Nagragramatarine Namāum Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Gopi Paranadana Dase Iti Namine Namāum Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamaniti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishashunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpattarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Śrī Kṛṣṇa Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhara Śrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam bhangum langayate girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Guruntaranam Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Shri Caitanya Ishwaram Katanchana Smrite Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Viparitam Syat Shri Caitanyam Namamitam. So this verse speaks about Parīkṣit Mahārāja, that he was not interested in any form of tourism, either in this life or in the life after that, because people in general are attracted to go to beautiful places for enjoyment. That's the tendency of all the living entities, especially in 2 years after the pandemic has started. It has been noticed that across the world there is great demand for tourism, so much so that airlines in different parts of the world are not able to keep up with it. Even in India, there is a great demand for tourism because people in general are attracted to go to beautiful places for sense enjoyment. Here it is explained that Parīkṣit Mahārāja was not interested in such enjoyment either in this life or in the life or in the next life. In the Vedic scriptures, there are prescriptions how one can perform various pious activities so that one can go to the moon planet. There are the Nandan or the heavenly planets where there are Nandankanan gardens and Somarasa and all these upgraded forms of material enjoyment. But Parīkṣit Mahārāja is not interested in such tourist activities. He is interested in transcendental tourism. He is interested in going to the planet of the Supreme Lord. Of course, tourists usually go and come back to their original place. So when I say transcendental tourism, I mean to shift permanent residence to that place called Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the aspiration of all devotees of the, or pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. They are not simply interested in any form of material, any material place or any form of material enjoyment. It's not that a pure devotee of the Lord thinks that the material world is nice and the spiritual world is nicer. It's not like that. In fact, in the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness, one may think, one may experience that the happiness of Krishna consciousness is far greater than any happiness that we may have experienced and can, or even can experience. At least we may have that sense that the happiness of Krishna consciousness is far greater. But as one progresses in Krishna consciousness, when progresses further in Krishna consciousness, then one begins to realize, one begins to experience that there is only transcendental happiness and everything else is garbage. So, in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are dealing now, in chapter 5, we saw how Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva. So there it is explained that any literature which promotes, which does not exclusively deal with transcendental glorification of the name, form and activities of the Supreme Lord is a subject matter for the crows. This is not just an analogy. This is a fact that all material enjoyment is meant for those who have lost their intelligence, because it is not enjoyment at all. It is like the enjoyment of the crows. You could say that a hog, like Prabhupada would say, a hog while eating stool, it is enjoying. But human beings, when we look at a hog, we think, what kind of enjoyment is this? Eating stool. Abominable. Abominable. So, the platform of Krishna consciousness means that due to the attraction of Krishna consciousness, we begin to realize that all material enjoyment, even the best forms of material enjoyment, is like enjoyment of garbage. In fact, then when one becomes situated in that platform, one begins to understand that even dharma, what is dharma? Any material enjoyment is harmful actually. Any material enjoyment is harmful. Could say toxic. So it's garbage, it's also toxic. So dharma means regulated enjoyment of toxic garbage. This is the actual meaning of dharma. Unregulated enjoyment of toxic garbage is adharma. Now what do you mean by regulated enjoyment of toxic garbage? Just like alcohol. Alcohol is harmful, but people can still manage to live if they regulate the consumption of alcohol. So it will not produce greatly harmful effects. But if people do not control it, then it produces greatly harmful effects. People die very early, liver cirrhosis. So sinful activities are greatly harmful. But pious activities are also harmful. And not only is it harmful, it is garbage. So this realization comes when one practices Krishna consciousness properly as prescribed by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. What has He come to give us? He has come to give us the Harinam Sankirtan, which was inaugurated by Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And what is the very first verse of the Sikshashtakam? The very first verse speaks about Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahādavagnirvivapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vidaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandambudhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Śrī Kṛṣṇa Sankirtanam. So Anandambudhi Vardhanam Pratipadam. Pratipadam means from, in every step. Padam means step. Prati means every step. Pratipadam what? Purna amrita swadanam. Tasting the nectar. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. Pratipadam purna amrita swadanam. This has never happened before. Never happened before. Of course, happens once in a day of Brahma. So when I say never happened before, means it's a very rare occurrence, once in a day of Brahma, that this opportunity for Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam is not there otherwise. Normally, like here it says how Parīkṣit Maharaj, he focused on the practice of bhakti. It is only the practice of bhakti, the pure bhakti, which can produce this effect of Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam, which means in every step there is full happiness available. That is only possible through the Sankirtan movement or the process of Bhakti Yoga. Whereas every other process is very difficult. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, he tells Krishna that this process that you have described, Ashtanga Yoga, it is more easier to control the wind than to practice this process. So every other process of self-realization is very difficult, extremely difficult. Finally, at the end of it, then you get some happiness, Brahman realization, or the maximum Paramatma realization. Of course, Paramatma realization has got a higher happiness than Brahman realization. But even that happiness is insignificant compared to Brahman happiness, is insignificant compared to the happiness that one obtains by performing bhakti. So, we should understand that we celebrated now Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. What is our real offering to Prabhupada? Yes, we have to write an offering. We have to do daily Guru Puja. But what should be the result? Prabhupada would often speak about result. He was very result driven. Result driven why? Because he said that Krishna consciousness is a science. Science means result. No, it's simply talk. There has to be a definite result. So, when we perform Guru Puja, when we write offerings, is our desire for writing offerings increasing? Is the happiness that we are experiencing increasing? If we are not experiencing increasing happiness in Krishna consciousness, then we have really not got it. We really need to get there. We really need to get there. Because that is what Prabhupada wants. Right? It's not that, okay, this is a ritual, I just go and offer Guru Puja. But each time that you offer Guru Puja, are you experiencing a greater state of happiness? This is what Caitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us. This is what Srila Prabhupada is teaching us. Here, take it. Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam. So this is a real offering that we can make. Every year, as we make the offering, we can see, have we advanced on this path? Are we able to say, yes, Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam? It's true. Are we able to say it, or we think, oh, it is written in the books, someday I will achieve it. It's not meant for someday. It is meant for every step. Pratipadam Purnamritaswadanam. So, this is our real offering to Prabhupada. So, when we read the Bhagavatam, we get this sense. Look at this, Parīkṣit Maharaj. He is considering excursion even to the higher planets to be useless. To be useless. So, we should examine our lives and see that Prabhupada, before Prabhupada, so many personalities came, so many gurus, so many people. There are so many literatures on Krishna. It's not that Prabhupada wrote for the first time. But what did Prabhupada do which was different than everybody else? He awakened the attraction for Krishna in our hearts. That is the power of a pure devotee. He can ignite that attraction for Krishna in our hearts. That is the real gift that we can get from a pure devotee. That once when Prabhupada was asked that what pleases you the most, different devotees expected different answers like book distribution, different things. But Prabhupada gave a very simple answer. He said, if you develop your love for Krishna, everything, the whole package that Prabhupada has given us is to evoke that attraction for Krishna, beginning with the morning prayers, the samsara prayers. When we sing the samsara prayers, we should be conscious of this fact. Are we feeling this effect? Samsara dava nalalida loka. It's a forest fire. How wonderful it is that I am able to be in front of Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasakis and experience this rain of nectar first thing in the morning. Who has that privilege? Who has that privilege in this world? People are so stressed, they don't have time in this material world. Nobody wakes up to a song and dance except the Hare Krishna devotees. So this is Prabhupada's gift, that he has made our process from the beginning till the end of our day. It's a song and dance. He has actually provided the process. And this is not an exaggeration, because Lochandas Thakur also, in his song Parama Karuna Pahu Devijana, he says Kevala Ananda Khanda. So this is what we have been given. And if we live the teachings, we'll experience it. We have to live the teachings. And live the teachings means what? Prabhupada throughout, the Bhagavatam is our scripture. Bhagavatam is our scripture. Why is Bhagavatam our scripture? Because it kicks out all the cheating processes of religion. Religion performed for some gain. It kicks out all those processes and gives us only one thing to try, one thing to aspire for, one thing to achieve, which is love of God. So if we are ready to kick out all other desires except, kick out all other desires and have only one desire, vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, that desire to attain love of Godhead, then we begin to experience Pratipadam Purnamritaswadanam. So we sing Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya Aikya Arna Koriho Mane Asha. Guru Mukha, whatever is coming from the lotus lips of the spiritual master, Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya, I will make it one with my heart, with my consciousness. Arna Koriho Mane Asha, I will have nothing else. This, we have to live that, which means what? We have to give up any other desire. Okay, suppose then the question may come up, okay, I want to give up, but I'm not able to give up. What do I do? So that is not the problem. In fact, among the 10 offenses, it says to maintain material attachments. That is an offense. Not that to have a material desire is an offense. We may have a material desire, but if we desire to give up that desire, then Krishna will make it possible for us to be able to give it up. To be able to give it up. So, we have to have that desire. Sometimes people may be afraid to have the desire also. What if I have the desire Krishna will take away this, Krishna will take away that, Krishna will do so many things. That means we are not reading the books. We are not reading the books properly. If Krishna provides so much happiness that by his taking away, we will not be disturbed by it. That is the meaning. That is the meaning. Of course, sometimes Prabhupada would behave or talk as if he was like an ordinary person. I was afraid Krishna will take away this. What will happen if I just do this? So then he says, yasyaham anugrahami. He was thinking that, okay, this wretched fellow, Prabhupada talks about all these things. Okay, let me take away all this so he'll only depend on me. Of course, he's a Nitya Siddha, he's an eternal associate of the Lord. But he talks like Krishna also when he comes in this human society, he behaves as if he's like an ordinary person. That even Brahma is far more intelligent than any of us. But even he gets bewildered. So that's Krishna's activities. God behaves in such a manner, just like an ordinary person, that even Brahma gets bewildered. So even the pure devotees are like that. That they may behave like an ordinary person, but those are meant for us to learn. So we may have some attachment. We may be afraid of praying only for attaining love of Godhead. But Prabhupada is saying, don't worry. See, I gave up everything else and it's exclusively surrendered to Krishna, and see what happened. I got much more. So Krishna, through his pure devotees, he shows us various things. So if we study the teachings properly, then we are not, first of all, what is there to be afraid of giving up garbage? If you realize that it's garbage, very happily we'll give it up, right? So this is possible by the practice of Krishna consciousness, that initially what happens is that we all have this experience that we think mine, I, me, mine. I will engage something of mine in Krishna's service. My objects, my senses, I will engage all of this in Krishna's service. This is the preliminary stage of Krishna consciousness. As one progresses in Krishna consciousness, one comes to the stage of understanding nothing is mine actually. So everything is Krishna's. What is this? My body is Krishna's body. My senses? No. Krishna's senses. My wife? No. Krishna has provided this facility for me to engage the soul in Krishna consciousness. Like that. So we begin to see everything from the perspective of Krishna. Krishna's. That is the real platform of Krishna consciousness. As we progress, we should be able to see this. That the more and more our attraction for Krishna is as it is increasing, we should also notice that our attraction for lording over material nature should also be decreasing, which means that these kind of things like mine, my, I, me, mine, this kind of concept will slowly begin to vanish, slowly or quickly, depending on the intensity of practice. So then one comes to that situation where one begins to see everything from the platform of Krishna's. It's a different world altogether. So one world is we are thinking everything in terms. When we look at the world is actually what we perceive. There is an objective world, but unless we come to the pure platform, the world is what we perceive. I perceive the world in one way, you perceive the world in another way, someone else perceives the world in some other way. So there is multiple perceptions of the same world. So therefore there is conflict. So Krishna consciousness brings us to the platform of the same perception of the world, which is everything belongs to God, everything belongs to Krishna. So it brings us to that platform. That is what Krishna consciousness does. It brings us to that platform. And when we come to that platform, then the problem is we think something is of value because we are interested in our sense enjoyment. Because we are interested in our sense enjoyment, we think garbage is of value. It is because of that consciousness of thinking in terms of me, I, me, mine and my enjoyment, we are not able to distinguish what is garbage, what is not garbage. So even garbage appears attractive. So when we give up that concept, then garbage appears like garbage. Like Parīkṣit Mahārāja is in that situation. Of course, he is not an ordinary person. He is a pure devotee of the Lord. But always pure devotees, by their lives, they teach us so many things. So here it is explained how Parīkṣit Mahārāja was not interested in any planet of this material world, from the highest to the lowest. He's not interested. He's only interested in transcendentally serving Krishna. So we should realize that this particular experience of Parīkṣit Mahārāja, of desiring only the spiritual world and relationship with the Lord, is what Prabhupada has come to establish. So we have that famous verse, Tadvag Visargo Abadavati Viplavaha Yasmin Pratishlokam Abaddavati Api Namani Anantasya Yasho Ankitani Yat Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadavaha. So what is the revolution? Viplavaha means revolution. What is the kind of revolution that the Bhagavatam is creating? What kind of revolution is it? It is usually any kind of revolution that we know of in this material world is problematic. There's so much bloodshed, so much violence, so much difficulty. Revolution means difficulty. That's normally revolutions are all associated with difficulty. Finally, there is some outcome. Oh, that outcome also is questionable. But this Viplavaha, this revolution, is a revolution of happiness. Revolution. That is why Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Sadavaha, which means the sadhus, they hear, they sing, they accept. Hearing, singing, accepting. This is the kind of revolution that the Bhagavatam is bringing to us. The revolution of happiness. So in this most fallen age, in this dark age, Prabhupada, being a representative of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, has come to bring us this revolution of happiness. This Krishna consciousness movement is that revolution, the revolution of happiness. So we should understand that in comparison to the pure devotees, in comparison to the spiritual world, nothing else is of any value. So in the previous verse, I'll just read the famous verse where it speaks about the crows are interested in garbage and swans are interested in clear, beautiful lakes. Prabhupada writes, and this is very important for us to note, social literary men. They're all considered great people, right? Social literary men, scientists, very highly regarded, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians were completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure, are all dolls of the material energy. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. That's garbage. According to Sridhar Swami, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. So these are the people who we consider of value, right? Why do we consider them of value? Because we are still in that consciousness of I, me, mine, right? So when we come to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then we understand this is the real position of anyone in this material world who is not Krishna conscious. They have no value whatsoever. There's nothing which is glorious about them. In fact, they are interested in eating garbage. So Prabhupada has come to create this revolution in our hearts, the revolution of happiness. The Sankirtan movement Param Vijayate. It's a revolution of supreme victory. What is that supreme victory? How? Param Vijaya Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam. So this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's revolution, the revolution of happiness. And Prabhupada has ignited, by giving us this thing and by us taking it up, he has ignited this revolution in our hearts. The revolution of happiness, the revolution of attraction. How is that happiness coming? By our being attracted to Krishna. And we just observed Janmashtami. So I just wanted to end by just quoting one verse, very famous verse. The gopis, and I'll read the translation also. The gopis are talking among themselves about Krishna. They're describing about Krishna. So we have some attraction for Krishna, which Prabhupada is, by the mercy of Prabhupada and the devotees whom we are fortunate to associate with in the Krishna consciousness movement, we have some attraction for Krishna. But the perfection of that attraction can be found in the residents of Vrindavan, especially the gopis. So let's see how they describe this attraction for Krishna. So we have that verse from the Bhagavatam, where the gopis, while conversing among themselves, they recite this verse. Barha pidam natavaravapu karnayo karnikaram bibradvasaha kanakakapisham vaijayantim samalam randhran venur adara sudaya purayan gopavrinde vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gita kirtihi. So I'll just read the translation of that. It's a very beautiful verse. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. The gopis remembered, this is a purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. The gopis remembered all the transcendental qualities of Krishna mentioned in this verse. Krishna's artful way of dressing and the beautiful blue flowers placed over his ears excited the gopis' conjugal desires, and as he poured the nectar of his lips into the flute, they simply lost themselves in ecstatic love for him. Later on in the purport to the next verse, it's explained that the internet is not good enough to, not able to go to the next. Okay, in the purport there, I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the gopis were lost in ecstatic love for him, and they're wondering, why only we are lost in ecstatic love? Why should anybody complain against us that we are not doing our duties, we are giving up everything? Everybody, every living entity is meant to develop that ecstatic attraction for Krishna. So on that note, I'll stop here, and if there are any comments or questions. Yes, Mujhi. One Prabhu, one Mataji.
Thank you very much for the class, Prabhu. Wonderful points. One of the points which I liked was that when you said Prabhupada was asked what pleases him most, and you said that if you develop your love for Krishna, then that. So a question on that is that as we come into Krishna consciousness, we say you have to associate with devotees.
Yes.
And one side we don't have any attraction for the Lord, and the other side we say we have to associate with devotees. we actually become attracted to the devotee itself.
Correct.
So, so how to overcome this attraction? Then how will you get? Because I hope you understand what I'm saying. We get attracted to the devotee itself.
We are meant to get attracted to the devotees. That is our greatest fortune, if we can get attracted to devotees. How did we develop our attraction for Krishna? We develop our attraction for Krishna because of developing an attraction for Prabhupada. Isn't it? Aren't we reading his books? That's how we are developing attraction for Krishna. It is through the medium of the devotee that we can develop attraction for Krishna. What are the Bhaktivedanta purports? Prabhupada said, these are my personal ecstasies. So when we read the Bhaktivedanta purports, it's Prabhupada's personal ecstasies. So this is the way of developing attraction for Krishna. Is to associate, read Prabhupada's books, associate with the great souls who are living the Bhagavatam, and that way we develop attraction for Krishna. It cannot happen any other way. Of course, chanting is there, but you also need to do it in the association of devotees.
Prabhu, sorry to interrupt your answer, but here please try to understand my question. Is that, say you're in some temple, 15 years, now you come out.
Okay.
Still the mind is there. You're unable to chant because you're attracted to devotees. You want to go back there. That's what my question is. Because, see, that's what I'm saying. You're attracted to the devotees, you're attracted to that ecosystem, everything. And so then I realized that, I'm not attracted to Krishna. I'm attracted to the devotees there.
No, I don't think that's wrong, because attraction, like Prabhupada said, all my temples are like Vaikunthas. Like I was just reading, I'll build you a temple. So Prabhupada, just before from Rishikesh he comes to Mumbai, and then from Mumbai, before going to Vrindavan for his final journey, he goes to London. There he is so much appreciative of the devotees in Bhaktivedanta manner. There Prabhupada speaks. I don't distinguish between India and the West, and for me every place where the worship of the Lord is going on, they're all equal, he says. I'm not biased towards India, he says that. So the point is that it's not wrong to be attracted to devotees or devotional service in any temple. That's not a problem. That's not the problem. The thing is that right now, Prabhupada said, like whatever we are doing right now, we should take it as Krishna has given this to us. So one should be able to execute that with that idea. So if one has attraction for, so what? One still has to perform, what's wrong with that? One still has to perform one's duty. Why is that an obstacle? I don't understand how it is an obstacle.
Thing is like, you're getting attracted to your Shiksha Guru, for example.
Okay.
Usually, that's how it works.
Okay.
People get attracted to Shiksha Guru, but some reason you fall apart. You come out. Then the mind is still there. We are not unable to concentrate on our chanting. You're supposed to chant here. I'm in Mayapur. So chant Hare Krishna, but then still that attachment is there. That's what I'm trying to say, is that by default we have to get detached from the devotees also, is my thought.
No, if the Siksha Guru, normally Siksha Gurus or anybody who is superior wants to see that their wards or those who they're training are properly engaged in Krishna consciousness, right? So normally that's what any advanced devotee is supposed to be like, right? They're supposed to be happy seeing whomever they have brought to Krishna consciousness, whomever they have been training, are happily engaged wherever they are, right? So why is that a problem? They'll be happy if you are performing happy. If you are performing devotional service properly, why will they not be happy? So then there's nothing to worry about.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. It was very enlivening. In the course of your class, you mentioned at one point that even pious activities are like toxic garbage.
Yes.
So I'm a little puzzled by that, because if I recall, in the Bhagavad Gita it is said that charity, penance, austerities are not to be given up, and even great souls perform them.
Correct.
So if you could just help me understand that point.
No, that is very good. I mean, it's good that you brought up this question. Now, this is from the perspective of someone who's fixed in pure devotional service. This is from the perspective of someone who's fixed in pure devotional service. But if one does not have that facility, I mean, you're not supposed to think like that. Then the problem is that because ultimately, okay, let's put it like this. Generally, all the scriptures of the world, what do they teach? To give up adharma. To give up adharma. Okay, so so we can say all the scriptures of the world teach sarva adharman paritejya. But Bhagavad Gita, the final instruction, sarva dharman. So it is also asking us to give up dharma. If dharma is beneficial, why is it asking us to give up dharma? Okay, so that is the idea. It's not that it's not beneficial. Relatively, from the higher perspective, it is garbage. Not from someone who is not eligible. Yes, they have to. They cannot perform sinful activities for sure. So the point is they have to perform pious activities. But better than pious activities is bhakti. So even in bhakti, sometimes the problem is that devotees think this has been a problem that has happened in our international society for Krishna consciousness. Either they are performing bhakti. If they are not performing bhakti, they think any activity is okay, dharma. It's not true. It's not true. Because to be eligible to practice bhakti, one has to even transcend other dharma. Not that one has to, okay, what I'm trying to say is that, okay, it's not that a practicing devotee can do some sinful activity. It's not prohibited. That's prohibited. It is not that a sinful activity is as good as a dharmic activity. A devotee can fall down from, from pure devotional service to dharma at least. I mean, that at least in the sense that it is not, I mean, and one can go back, but it's not acceptable to fall down to the platform of sinful activities. Specifically, when Bhakticharu Maharaj got initiated and he got sannyas so quickly, Prabhupada has asked the specific question, you know, how is it that you're giving him sannyas so quickly and all that, you know. So Prabhupada could see his qualification. So Prabhupada said, even if he falls down, he will not fall down into sinful activity. So Prabhupada could see that. So the point is, it's not that, I mean, when you fall down, anything is okay. Okay, you are not practicing fully bhakti, at least don't do adharma. That is very important. It's not that, okay, I've got material desires, what to do, I'm on that level. But one cannot perform sinful activities. So dharma is definitely above adharma. You have adharma, that's why even the shastras is a gradation. You have the kama shastras, you have the artha shastras, then you have the dharma shastras, then you have moksha shastras, and then you have bhakti shastras. So from the higher perspective, what we say kama shastra is, I mean, useless, right? I mean, whatever. We just don't we don't care about it. But at the same time, shastra, it was meant for a certain class of people, not for us. So from the perspective of a pure devotional service, everything else is garbage. But it's not that we can start applying it. We have to see, do we have the tendency for sinful activity? Then we have to consider, okay, we have tendency for sinful activity, we have to perform bhakti. We should be careful not to perform sinful activity, and only when we are situated on the platform of pure devotional service, then automatically we'll see it as garbage. At the same time, that knowledge is important, because the problem is otherwise we'll start developing attraction for all mundane things. That is the problem. Like, so there's so much propaganda in this material world that naturally we'll start getting attracted to various things. So to prevent that attraction, this knowledge is important. Okay, Padmavad Prabhu is asking me to stop. Sorry, I didn't realize it.